I'd like to thank Greg Jenner and the band for an excellent performance. And I want to especially thank Greg for providing this platform so it makes me look tall. I'm so glad that you're working this tightly received. We welcome all of you this morning to everyone who's supposed to Garner's 9th annual Veterans Day observance. Our purpose here today is to honor and show gratitude to our veterans of all services. My name is Charles Scott. It's my privilege to be the Master Ceremonialist for the 9th consecutive year. If you're able to please stand, remain standing for the invocation by Dr. Jeffrey Robinson, presentation and posting of the colors by the Garner Police Fire Department's Honor Guard, and the national anthem by the Garner Magnet High School Wind Ensemble. Please stand. Dr. Robinson.
General Mayor, might we pray. Father, we thank you for this day, for life, for health, and for strength. It has often been said, some gave, but others gave all for some. Thank you for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, as well as those who have served in this military in the United States, whether it's the Army, the Air Force, the Marine, the Navy, the Coast Guard, any way they've served. We thank you for their service. We pray that you would bless our soldiers and men and women that are here in the United States as well as in foreign land. Bless this service today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Honor Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Ronnie Williams, Mayor of Garner.
Thanks, sir. I have the distinct pleasure, on behalf of the Garner Town Council, of welcoming you here to this service this morning. Thank you for coming. By mere fact that you showed up, makes a statement that you support our veterans. There are many places you could be and many people you could be with. You chose to be with your family. God bless you. Thank you. Enjoy the program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of our elected officials are here today, but not many, and I understand that being a Saturday. But let me introduce those who are in attendance. From the House of Representatives of North Carolina, Darren Jackson. Stand, please. Garner Town Council member, Ken Marshburn. Are there any other elected officials in the audience? Thank you for coming and supporting our veterans. Thank you very much. Dana Stevenson Dixon has inspired us with her talents and loyalty to Veterans Observances. A former Miss North Carolina and Miss Garner, she supports veterans whatever the opportunity presents itself. For the how many times now? For 8 out of 9 performances, she has been here to perform and show her talents, and we appreciate you coming, Dana. Thank you very much.
Stands a lady those who have served and the families who continue to serve the ones who serve too. Thank you for all you do.
Let me do some introductions other than the mayor. Mayor, your son is here today. Welcome. Yeah. All right. And Betsy, First Lady of Garner, and Ken Marshman's wife, Faye. But let's go now to the time when we can let me find a place. We have a special presentation that we'd like to do, so now we'll ask Tim Stevens and Jeff Hicks to come up.
On the day before his 20th birthday, Alan Sheffield Stroud was killed in Vietnam while fighting for his country. The men who served with him in Charlie Company, 4th Battalion, 503rd Infantry Division, 173rd Airborne Brigade, 82nd Airborne, said he was a courageous man who would do anything to help his comrades. He was attempting to retrieve a wounded soldier when he was killed. He was living near downtown Garner with his wife, Dora Burnett Stroud, and son Timothy, and he was working as a brick mason at NC State University. He enlisted in the United States Army in 1967. He enlisted because he loved his country and because he wanted to use the GI Bill benefits so that he could look after his family by going to school. The only memory that Timothy has of his father are hearing the shots that were fired in his honor at the funeral. Dora Ann has memories of her husband, but she has little else. She thought that she had safely stored all his military honors when she moved to Memphis soon after his death, but all his awards, the coffin's flag, all his letters were thrown away after she left. His wedding band was stolen. The picture she had of him parachuting with his unit was borrowed and lost. About the only thing tangible that she has of her husband is a picture that was taken in the 1965 Clayton Cooper High School annual. But today, Garner's American Legion Post 232 will present Dora Ann Burnett Stroud with replacements of the honor her husband won in the spring of 1968 and with a United States flag that was flown in his honor over the U.S. Capitol.
The military medals earned by Mr. Stroud in Vietnam. I will present them to you from the American Post.
Here for a choral salute to veterans and other guests is Victoria Mata and the Aversboro Elementary School Choir. Thank you, Victoria, and the choir for that great performance. Now we come to a most important part of this observance. Today, it is our privilege and a heart to say a heartfelt thank you and a show of gratitude for all the veterans that are here today and veterans everywhere. To let you know we appreciate you, we want to ask you to stand and remain standing while the congregation shows their gratitude for your service. First of all, last year we had 6 World War II veterans here at last year's performance on November 11th, 16. We have a few in the audience today, so I'm going to ask our World War II veterans to please stand and remain standing. Katie Spencer and others are passing out our thank you veterans poster to those World War II veterans. We thank that kindergarten for taking the time to write a message. That's great. Now, veterans of all military services, will you join these World War II veterans? Soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, the reserve forces of each of these services, and the Air and Army National Guard. Please stand, all veterans, and let us show how much we appreciate what you mean to us and for your service. Thank you very much for being here today and joining us for this observance. We are fortunate today to have Colonel retired Baron Guy Hignite as our keynote speaker. There's a condensed bio in your printed program. I think it's on the back page, Baron. You made the back page right on the front one this time. You can tell from this bio, he's a very involved and busy man, even today after retirement from active military service. He served as a public information officer when I was Adjutant General for North Carolina National Guard. I was never disappointed. He did a great job. His performance was effective and outstanding. Please give Colonel retired Baron Hignite a great place to be. Garner, welcome. Baron.
Thank you very much. It's quite an honor to be introduced by General Scott, who's been a mentor to me for many years. I thank you for that generous and kind introduction. Generals are so interesting, don't you think? I don't get around many generals, but all of them have one thing in common. Every one of them is unique. I'll never forget one time I was an aide-de-camp and I was riding with a general. We went out at 2 o'clock in the morning to make sure that the troops were okay in the field. And there's a young man standing there holding his weapon at port arms. He said, "Halt, who goes there?" The general's in the back seat. I was driving that day. The sergeant major couldn't be with us. And he said, "It's the general. I'm going to come in and just see the troops." He said, "No, sir. Do you know the password?" He said, I don't know the password, just move out of the way and let me come on in and see the troops. He said, sir, it's my first day on the job. Do I shoot you or your driver? I was so glad the general had the good sense to say, attention, about face, forward march. And he walked off across Sicily drop zones, and ways in that direction. So it worked out very well for us. It's an honor to be here today to honor the soldiers, past and present. What an honor to see the World War II veterans are here with us today. God bless each one of you. The sacrifices and challenges fade, and I believe that while I was in uniform, I believed every day was a holiday, every meal was a feast, and every formation was a family reunion, because you learn to love the people you serve with. Those people you serve in uniform with will always be your family. Those uniforms and amazing folks, they know that in their minds they can conceive, in their hearts they can believe, and they can achieve. If they can bend over and lace their boots, they can reach up and lace the stars. That there are no limitations except those which their minds will let them accept. And that's what I dealt with every day with every single soldier, every member of every branch of the service. The Army indoctrinates us. Often we don't know how much we're being indoctrinated by the culture of the service that you're in. I'd recently retired, and I'd just joined a church, Trinity Baptist Church, very, very similar to Aversboro here, a very beautiful church. And I joined the choir. I was in the church that day when the choir did the welcome song, the very first one, and the pastor, maybe like it does in your churches, he said, and all God's people say, and the choir, and everybody said, amen, except for me, and I yelled, hooah! I'd been indoctrinated by the Army, and all the altos jumped quite a bit in front of me. So we spend the day remembering the soldiers through the centuries who've come together to fight for the common cause. They've defended America when our borders and our people and our way of life have been threatened. We're a nation that was attacked by a cunning and resourceful enemy. And we continue to see our men and women in the military in this great struggle making unbelievable sacrifices every day. Our country continues to balance the challenge of having our flag stand as the ultimate symbol of freedom across the world on one hand, and on the other hand, the overwhelming power and control, the delicate balance, and we fight on undeterred. All over the nation today, Americans are gathering today to remember and pay tribute to our veterans. Today is a chance to thank those who've selflessly answered the call to duty and remember those who've served. We had all of you stand, and it meant so much to us. But there's another group that's here that's even as important in this land of the free. It's the family members. So often now that we go out and have our speeches and talk and meet folks and don't realize the sacrifice of the families. I thank each one of you who have a loved one who's served in the service and those who are serving today. Those family members wait on pins and needles for the letters and the phone calls and the emails home that tell them their loved one is safe. They may not carry a rucksack with them on their back, but they've carried the weight of worrying about their soldier, probably the most cumbersome burden anyone can imagine. They carry that burden until their loved one returns home. Tragically, some never do. Whenever a soldier falls in combat, it's the families who suffer the most. My heart holds a special place for all the Gold Star families that I've been able to meet over the years. Just as our veterans have made sacrifices, the families of soldiers have made sacrifices, and we honor their veterans. We thank each family member. Each year on November the 11th, our country pauses to pay tribute to the veterans of all the services. We do so we can thank you and show our appreciation for your service. History shows that before we were a country even, before we had even inaugurated our first president or ratified the Constitution, soldiers were defending what we considered our inalienable God-given rights. In the many years since then, soldiers have always provided selfless service to our nation in times of peace and war. That's what a veteran does. The challenges of our military have been great, but the results of the efforts are greater still. The recent elections and the constitutional vote in Iraq are evidence that we're making some progress, even though it's the longest war we've ever been involved in America. The world holds different challenges now than our veterans faced in previous wars, but today's soldiers are linked with those who have gone before by values such as loyalty and duty and respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, and even humor. Some of the best times I can remember and the happiest times were when I was with the troops that I was working with. I'll never forget the first time that one of my favorite memories, I deployed on the first Gulf War, and I had the privilege of flying to Saudi Arabia on an aircraft. It was a contracted aircraft, and on board that aircraft was a 55-year-old sergeant that had never flown on an aircraft before. It was a contracted flight, and as a contracted flight attendant walked over to pass out meals, she said to him, I can tell you're a little worried. Is there anything that I can do to make this flight better for you? He said, yes, ma'am. While I eat this meal, could you sit down across from me and yell at me while I eat? I miss my wife. He might have been happy to be taking that trip. I'm often asked how our service members, American Public Forces, what are they like? I say they're all selfless, they're all unique. You can say the same thing about every branch of the service. Everyone stood with pride when their service hymn was played today. I'm able to tell you stories of sacrifice and dedication, commitment and selfless service. I'm also telling you the story of those who perform those same duties and hold those jobs now in the Guard and Reserve who deploy, fight, and return home to their families and employers. We all serve. This is so important that we remember the sacrifice of these folks as well, who continue to deploy continuously. We have a unit from the North Carolina National Guard that will deploy this coming Sunday. That's a military unit in the western part of the state. This will be the 5th deployment since the war started in Iraq and Afghanistan. These are citizen soldiers who go, and when they go to war, they take the fabric of America with them because they're the citizen soldiers from your communities, such as here in Garner. As we approach Veterans Day, I ask you to take all this time reflecting on what this day is truly about. For many people, they say it is a day off, a time to get something done at home, or a 3 or 4 day weekend. Maybe just go visit family, which is wonderful. But this year, you've taken the time out of your schedules to be here, to take sacrifice of your time to say thank you to the men and women of the armed forces, which allow us to remain free and prosperous. I myself have dedicated the majority of my life to this small but hallowed fraternity of fellow warriors who chose a path less desirable. Now for over 239 years, men and women, a small part of our nation, have heeded and go forth and represent the people of this nation, regardless of political beliefs and affiliations or of cause. Most go forth not for the money or the parades or decorations or accolades of any kind, but rather because our fellow warriors go forth. It's for the warrior to our left and the right and to go into the fires of war, serving along our comrades that we've sweated and toiled with in training and in war. We endure separations, the missing of quality time with family and friends. We miss a child's first step, perhaps a first tooth, a graduation, weddings and birthdays, always with a heavy heart, but never with a complaint or a whimper, because we use the warrior code. We accept our duties, we accept our fate, for we know that if we fail, which we never have, this nation and way of life is at risk. That's why we, the few, have never failed on the field of battle, and through times of adversity in our own nation, and even when our existence was shunned by people, we remained steadfast to our beliefs, knowing we were necessary for the preservation of freedom. We, the people of the United States, owe a debt to these warriors, young and old, past and present and future, for without their dedication as a nation, we would not exist. It was a select few that day in 1775 that took up arms to defend the ideology set forth by a political body and establish freedom in the nation we have today. It was the great men of my great-grandfather's day that took arms up to preserve the Union. It was my grandfather's generation that went forth over there to end the war, to end all wars. It was my dad who fought at Guadalcanal to stop an emperor and dictator. It was my uncles who went to Korea to check communism, and our brothers in arms in Vietnam. It was this brave generation now that serves to check the fears of terrorism on so many fronts. None asked for special treatment. All came back assimilated into society most quietly, never asking for thanks, accolades, or parades, knowing it was their duty to answer the nation's call. They said with their service, if there is to be adversity, let it be in my time, so my children may live free. On this day, the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th hour, I ask for you to pause for a moment as we honor these warriors, past, present, and future, both living and dead. Thank them quietly for being there when needed, for giving up so much in their lives and of themselves to show the world that this nation has the will, it has the spirit, the passion of freedom, and stands ready to do what is necessary to preserve freedom for our children and future generations. The blood of our warriors has consecrated the soil of so many different lands, and many nations owe their very existence to the sacrifice of our most beloved and precious resource, our men and women. This nation stands strong on not only her principles, people, and will, but on the blood and determination of the very few warriors throughout time who have come from every way of life, every race, every creed, to defend her and let the world know we are a force to be reckoned with, and freedom and democracy will live on. Ladies and gentlemen, let us resolve to make every day Veterans Day. to demonstrate our appreciation, our respect and support for soldiers and their families and the daily sacrifices they make. I encourage you to take time to thank a veteran for his or her sacrifices. A card or a phone call, a visit or a warm handshake will be a welcome expression of your gratitude. They deserve our best. God bless you all. You have my thanks and my love for allowing me the privilege and honor of serving you. You know, my favorite book is the Bible, but my second favorite book is the biography of great American Ben Franklin. Each day Ben Franklin would drop to his knees and he would say the same prayer. O powerful goodness, bountiful Father, merciful guide, increase in us that wisdom which discovers our truest interests. Strengthen our resolutions to perform what that wisdom dictates and accept our kind offices as the only return in our power for thy continued blessings for each of us. What he was saying is, God, help me find something that I can do and do well and learn to do it as often as I can because I love to do it. And when I see someone who needs a hand, let me reach down, let me lift them up, and let me help them in some way because I've been so blessed. Serving in Uniform America has been my honor, and I thank you for being here today. God bless our veterans, their families, each of you in the United States of America. Thank you very much. Could you start that again, Rick? It's always better to start at the beginning than at the end. If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my God above to be living here today, 'cause his flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and in Garner here today, there's pride in every American heart. It's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her here today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Did he mention he once sang in Carnegie Hall? He's pretty proud of that, and I am too. Thank you very much. Well, we're blessed today with so much observance for this Veterans Day 2017, so we appreciate everyone being here. We've been blessed today by the veterans in attendance, the participants, the performers, the words, the music, Colonel Hignite, the ceremonies, and by everyone who attended. Thank you for attending today. Our thanks to Aversboro Baptist Church for hosting this event. And for all, I want to especially thank Rick Sinclair, Chief Petty Officer, retired U.S. Navy, a submariner. And I could jump out of an airplane, but I don't think I could serve on a submarine. So thank you, Rick, for performing and volunteering today. Today's observance will end following the playing of taps. Let me invite you, if you want to brave the cooler weather, to attend the Garner Veterans Memorial. We have the guides. We have a guide or two out there that will show you what it's all about. So if you haven't been and want to take the time today to visit the memorial, please do so. Please rise for the retrieval of the colors by the honor guard and the playing of taps by Emily Newman. Please rise. Honor guard. Please drive safely. Thank you for being here today.